Okay guys, this is a quick tutorial in Illustrator just introducing the pencil tool for people that struggle to use the pen tool. Okay, so pencil tool, a lot of people don't use it. I'm in Illustrator CS6 here because I don't have the Creative Cloud version on this machine. But much of the stuff I'm going to show you behaves exactly the same in Creative Cloud as well. Okay, so the pencil tool is located in your tool section on your palette. I've got mine docked from this single strip view up into the double strip view purely because I'm working at a low screen resolution. Normally I'd have it single view, but it's normally next to your paintbrush thing. If you hit N on your keyboard, it should select it automatically for you. Okay. By default in Illustrator, almost everything will begin with a white fill and black stroke. Because we're dealing with a pencil tool, I usually find it very useful to just get rid of the fill altogether. We only want the stroke. Otherwise, when you start drawing, what you will find is it will go around and be trying to connect the two ends and probably end up confusing you. So I've just clicked on the fill to bring it in the front of the stroke and then click this little None tab. Okay, if we double click on the pencil tool, we get the pencil tool options here. Now you've got fidelity, how accurate it is. You've got smoothness, which you can turn up or down. I normally leave this on the defaults as shown here. You can hit reset if you're not sure. Okay. You can also fill new pencil strokes. I've deselected that, or it's been deselected because I've not got a fill on it. And you can keep it selected and edit selected paths. Now these are the defaults to be on, and I'll show you what they mean. I'll show you also how to change them later. Okay, so just to make you aware, there are pencil options there. In addition, because there are these little triangles next to the icon, if you press and hold down, you will see there's some variations to the pencil tool. I'm just going to tear off the strip. So we have the pencil tool, we have the smooth tool, and we also have the eraser. Okay, so I'll start with the pencil tool. I'm using a Wacom tablet here, which makes life a lot easier than it would drawing with something like a mouse. Okay, tends to be more fluid. If I try to make this shape with a mouse, it's not going to be as good. If you don't have a Wacom tablet, draw away with a mouse, don't worry about it. Okay, so the thing about the keep paths selected is that once I've finished drawing this, you can stay, it has remained selected, and then there's also this edit paths that are selected option available, which means effectively as a designer, if I don't quite get that curve right, I can go back and just redraw over it. Now it can be a bit quirky, this. If you were to draw here and come over there, it will shorten it. I'll just undo. Okay. If I were to take this up here though, it does a completely different thing. So the key thing is that usually if you're refining, you need to cross the path in two places. So if I wanted to round this off a bit shorter, I'd go over this or touch this path over here, come down and touch that path. And then usually, as long as you touch the path in two places, it will amend it. If you don't, it will shorten it. Okay, so you can refine your path, get it exactly where you want it, like so. Next thing I can do is, if that path is a bit jolty like it is there, I can come in and take the smooth tool and do a similar thing of just stroking. You can see how it's going to reduce eventually the number of these anchor points and create a much smoother line, which is probably what I was after in this case. Now you don't always want a smooth line, hence the fact it's a separate tool. Use it when you need it, don't when you don't. Okay, so we can really simplify that line down. An alternative to that, I'm just going to deselect and move that path to the side just for the moment. Pick the pencil tool again. Let's do a similar path. Okay. So if your path is a bit jolty, this one seems smoother. What you can also do, very similarly, is go to the Edit menu. The Object menu, down to Path, because we're dealing with a path object, and there are some options in here like Simplify, which is similar to Smooth. Okay, this brings up a dialog box that allows you to click Preview, and you can tweak how precise the curve is or not, and how accurate the angles are or not. It makes more of a sense if you've got sharp angles here. I've got a smooth path, so the second one doesn't make a great deal of difference. Remember that these settings will be different depending on the nature of your path. But you can see that I can make a massive difference really in terms of how I simplify and balance that. You can also show original, so that when you're making these changes, you can see how different that shape's going to be. So if I feel it's gone too far from the original, I can dial it back a bit. Okay, if it's not gone far enough, I can move it up. You could also choose straight lines, which is an alternative, and then smooth them later, but I wouldn't normally be using that. Occasionally it's useful, but not normally. Okay, the less points generally, the much easier it becomes later with the white arrow to go in and edit paths. If you want to tweak it, you can then do so more accurately. The more handles you've got, the more you end up fiddling and compensating. You can come in later and do things like remove extra anchor points and change that line very much like you would with the power of the pen tool. But again, the main advantage of the pencil tool is you don't necessarily have to learn the pen tool. I would still encourage you to do so because it's by far the most powerful thing. Sorry, I've got ink going on here. Part of the Mac OS. So there's our sort of basic introduction to drawing basic shapes. What I'm going to do now is we're going to try using that with Pathfinder so that we can draw shapes, refine them, modify them, etc. So I'm going to just start by drawing out a kind of heart rather badly. I'm going to make sure that the two ends join. I'm going to draw it. I'm just going to hit undo. I'm just going to round it off. I want it to look freehand, but I want it to resemble ultimately a heart. It's not being very responsive here. Okay, good. Finally started to work for me. So I can change the shape here. Not doing a very good job of demonstrating this, I'm afraid. Okay, come over this side, take it around. Okay, we're starting to get there. It's not looking great at the moment, so I'm going to want to modify it. Sometimes you can see the more you edit, the worse it gets. And you try and come in and simplify it, and it just seems to make it more complex. This is where I might change down now to my smooth tool, which creates a much simpler form, which will be a lot easier to edit now. Okay, so I'm smoothing in quite a few of these parts, and you can see I'm just getting a more complete sort of heart shape in this case. You can use the white arrows to adjust things if you need to. Okay, but ultimately you could also just come back in now and say, you know what, I don't want that so deep. Round it off, smooth, etc. Okay, all these points can be edited with the white arrow moved around with the arrow keys. The white arrow selects individual points rather than the whole object, if you weren't aware of that. It's extremely powerful, really fundamental part of Illustrator. So if you want to learn Illustrator, it's one thing you definitely need to get your head around, the difference between these white and black arrows. Okay, so I'm just going to tweak this. I still can't get it. Sometimes it works beautifully and other times it just doesn't want to play ball. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the path tool, just delete that middle point, come in with my smooth tool and just smooth out that line again. Okay, so when I'm approaching something that I think is roughly what I want, let's just take this in a little bit here. Okay, and smooth, I can then finish it off, apply a style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a little heartbeat metaphor going across here, and we're going to slice and dice just to show you a little bit of using other things as well. So I want to make sure it's deselected by clicking away from it. Hit the N key for pencil, P is for pen, and I'm going to create my little sort of fake heartbeat like so. Okay, now that might be a bit big, excuse me, got ink firing up again. Let's turn that off. I'm just going to scale it with the shift key, put it in the middle like this. Okay, and let's say I wanted to divide these two. At the moment you can see because I scaled it and the scale options, scale strokes, that this stroke looks finer. So I might want to beef it up if I wanted it the same. Okay, you've also got on your strokes, you can't quite see this, let me pull the palette. Excuse me a minute, I'm just going to kill ink. Right, no I'm not, it's come back. Right. You've got control over your stroke. 1 second, I'm just going to sort this. Okay, hopefully that won't be bothering me anymore. Ink is just the thing where you can like hand write into applications and stuff, which is automatically switched on when I've plugged in the Wacom. So just turned it off now. So I get this into position, this path. As you can see here, we've got weight, how heavy it is, light it is. But we've also got these caps and corners, which a lot of people don't understand properly. Okay, so we've got this line coming across like this. Where it's at a strong angle, you can see these are incredibly sharp looking points. And we can control how they work by rounding them off on the joins like that. It's now like it's been drawn with a felt tip, mitering them even. Okay, we can also control, if I get to the ends in terms of whether they're square, whether they're rounded, whether they continue, and so on. If it's complete path like the heart, a compound path, in other words, a path that is a single path and completely encloses a space. So this path that I've made with the heart, I could actually put a fill in because it's a complete object, a singular object. Okay, at the top I joined it with the pencil tool right at the beginning. That's called a compound path. If that's the case, you can also choose whether the line goes inside the stroke, goes inside the path or sits outside of it, etc., which can be useful sometimes, particularly when you're trying to like do extra thick outlines on illustrations and so on. Okay, and again, you can control things like the caps and stuff for these angular points. Okay, once I've got these two ready, what I'm going to do now is divide this into two. I'm going to copy my sort of heartbeat motif just to the clipboard so I can, in case I need it again, to put it back. I'm going to hold down Shift and select both, or click and drag over both to select both. Just pop my stroke palette back in the dock. And I'm going to go to Pathfinder. I'm on the Essentials view at the moment, so I need to go to Window, down to Pathfinder. I go over to Pathfinder, and Pathfinder allows me to kind of dice this drawing up. So I'm just going to divide these, because what I want is the top half to be one colour and the bottom half to be another. And at the moment, it would be a single object with a line over the top. So I'm going to use the divide filter, which will basically, wherever the two lines collide, it's going to divide it. You can see that it's switched the path to being inside, which makes it look heavier in the middle. I'm just going to unswitch that. Now I could pick the top half. You see that they're grouped at the moment, so I need to right click and just ungroup. Whenever you divide with Pathfinder, it automatically groups, just in case you let go and there's 1,000 bits. It automatically puts it in a group. So once I've ungrouped it, I can come in and I can put a fill. So I could go maybe an orange in the top half. Let's get rid of the stroke now because we don't need it. And I could maybe go red in the bottom half. Okay, like so. Maybe a little bit darker red, just like that, and drop. Okay, I can also then paste in place, which will bring back my original drawing. And I could make that potentially a white stroke. So we kind of get the heartbeat thing going through the middle. Okay, so you can have a lot of fun with it. You can see you can draw quite, especially freehand shapes with the pencil tool, particularly if you've got a graphic tablet, much easier, but can be done without. It's a little bit easier for many people to get their head round initially than the pen tool. Once you get used to the pen tool, it's way more powerful, but initially and for quick things, this is a great workaround. It also means that you can obviously create new layers and start to create lock layers and create doodles and things like that. So you could go in and create interesting designs or continuous line art or whatever it might be, and create, you know, other bits of illustration within this area, this shape or what have you. Draw things in, start to make this much more ornate. Okay, so you can work totally freehand. If you deselect on the pencil tool by double clicking and you deselect the keep selected, okay, and deselect the edited paths, it's a lot easier if you want to write something. For example, let's put them back. I think I'm going to have to continue this on another video clip, so I've just re-enabled them and I'll be right back with you in just a sec.